story.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're interested in any kinds of sort of this kind of tooling, doing stuff to help people develop groups and stuff.
Okay. Carla has been a big help in pushing forward COP community, which is not exactly, which doesn't have exactly the same purposes as the archive of formal proofs, but share some features.
Je vais appeler Marcin juste pour confirmer si ils sont arrivés bientôt, sinon on commence. Okay, this is Arthur. This is Arthur notes.
Yeah.
Maybe you could put it on the wiki. Okay.
Okay, so should I kind of, so for example, I could talk about like how exactly we use this VIO and how we could use this via VOS and so on. So is that a good start, or how do you want to start?
I was planning to read what is written there. I don't know if you can see it.
It's a bit small for me, but okay, no, can be okay. I can make it big. Yeah?
So I just wanted to recall. Maybe we don't need to wait for the others to recall what we said last time and what the proposal is.
Yeah. To genome properties. Wow.
So the proposal for VOS is to have only compiled statements and not any suspended proofs to avoid the problem of the grow up of the size of the files.
Yeah.
And so the policy is that if you compile a VOS file, you only need to use the VOS files of the dependencies. And if you want to compile also a given file, you might choose to compile it against the VOS of the dependencies to compile it faster. And so the idea is that the VO compilation chain remains completely unchanged. Just one trick to enable people who use VOS files to not need to recompile libraries that they depend on is that the libraries will export a VOS file, an empty file, just as a placeholder to say, if you need to read something, just read it in the VO file. But I didn't want to reuse a rule that says read whichever file is most recent, because this is fragile and confuses makefiles. So that was a proposal that was discussed. So I presented this in the last working group.
You cannot say take the view if there's no VOS by default. It would be wrong to do
The
that.
view of the VOS?
You cannot say take the VO if there is no VOS by default. It would be
This
wrong.
confuses makefile, and when you do parallel compilation, you always have some races that are very bad.
But why don't you ask your program to decide this, by the way? Like you could ask COP to read the VOS and the VO and say this VO depends on the VOS. Like you can just put a digest and be done with it.
No, but I mean the dependencies, if you go use make, the dependencies must be understandable by make. So.
Yeah, the question is whether there exists some target for make for the dependencies. So what I want in the .depend file that's generated is a VOS depends on the VOS, and a VO depends on the VO.
Yep.
And to maintain this, I need libraries to export VOS placeholders. At least I believe this is the simplest approach.
But I'm not sure I follow, like, I have a different make system. I'm not sure I follow. I don't understand make very well. Why is that a problem?
So if you have a system more clever than make, you can explain dependencies in more clever ways.
What is the clever? My question is, what is the clever point here? What is the cleverness we need?
The cleverness is to compile a VOS file. You can either load the .vo or the .vos of the library dependency.
And if both are present, which one you should take?
If both are present, by default, the policy is when you compile a VOS, you're looking for VOS files of the dependencies. Initially, I imagine that the user will specify using a flag what is needed, like which files should be looked for the dependencies. But it seems to me that the only practical use case is to say if you compile VOS, you're looking for VOS. And then if the VOS files is coming from a library for which VOS files were not created, then it's convenient to have a placeholder to say it's okay to read the VO file in place.
Okay, but that still is not clear to me. What is, when both are present, what is the...
The policy does not depend on whether both are present. It depends on what your current target is. The current target.
If you're building VOs or VO, it's different.
And then you have a fallback if not?
You have an error if not.
No?
You have the error depends on VOS, but you have a fallback on VO.
No, you fallback on VO only if an empty VOS file exists.
Yeah.
Only for an empty VO file. But this is why an
VOS
empty.
file.
Why an empty? Why you need empty?
You
file?
can put a digest in it if you want.
Yeah, but why you need that? I mean, why you need empty file? Why is better than having the file? Is that to make file quick?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
So
Okay.
this I'm doing to help people who are using Make. If you're not using Make,
You could
could have
have a
a-
better rule, like, okay.
you could have a better.
Yeah, yeah.
Essentially, you need disjunction with precedence. I think.
Yeah.
No, okay.
There's one question right from the start. You talked about suspended proofs. What are suspended proofs?
So in the VIO files, you have like the same content as a VO file, except that the proofs are not proof objects, they are suspended proofs, which are meant to be executed later.
You have a proof task
The proof
that you
task
can
is-
run later to produce the proof object.
Okay, in the future.
But, I'll tell you what, we discussed this a bit, but actually, my point of view, of course, that also means this is what should be done. I think I'm not sure why we need VOS at all. I think VO should be able to have like an option. So this will solve all these problems. If you reuse VO and you make the format, Enrico has in the kernel to start implementing this as like the pending proofs a bit more like using an option type.
Yeah.
So I think like from this point, if you have VO files and maybe they can contain hosts, you will solve this
So I have-
all this mess about.
We had this discussion.
Yeah,
before.
we had this discussion. So there is
Yeah.
a good reason why you want a different track for VO and VOS, because VOS don't give you a formal guarantee about the results because of the universe dependencies.
Yeah.
So it's convenient that you can have VOS files for working quickly and have in parallel a VO chain for checking everything more thoroughly every once in a while.
Yeah.
And if you confuse the two files and you don't know whether the suspended proofs partially executed proofs in the VO file
this I
are-
have to, yeah.
So we had this discussion last time. I don't know if this.
And this I have to strongly disagree. Like if your trust is going to come from a file name, I think it's very weak because actually there are some problems. Like for example, like having a VO doesn't guarantee a lot either. Okay, so actually if you yeah,
But you could have check.
Yeah, it could be the wrong.
yeah. In my opinion,
Part of the discussion we already had, at some point I remember during a working group, Pierre-Marie said that it would take like an hour or so to do what you said, to adapt the VO format to
VO.
To VOS.
not contain proofs or something.
Yes.
And I think in the end it was more complex than it looked or something like that. But I don't remember the conclusion, but the
I
discussion
don't
we had.
remember the conclusion.
But
My
did you try
conclusion
did you
is
try
that-
it or? Yeah?
Well, I did a bit of an experiment. This one about the fake proof. You remember these two PRs? So I think, in my opinion, the trade-offs are clear in favor of having a single file for everything, and it's much better. Of course, then you need, if you worry, you need to call CodeCheck or Coxie and tell you like, okay, we need some kind of trust management. But still, is the case with VO files.
What was the drawback of having
Yes.
two extensions?
Oh, because it's then you have like a mess. Which one is the good one?
It's clear. I mean,
It's clear.
I think you are missing something. So the goal is to do parallel make of a chain of files. So you need a compile interface to compile other files. And if this compile interface at the same time as other processes are reading it, you are updating this file to feed in proofs. It means that you have a race on the file.
That's right. I mean, in my make system, how can you have this is a matter of having the right proofs. I mean,
No, it's not about other.
Okay.
You want in the same time to build VO files that read this VOS.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you want to feed in this VOS
Yeah, but
with
this is-
the
I know,
information. of
Yeah.
the
this is similar to Camels Opaque. Okay, for example, the main reason I use Dune is much faster than Make because it's used the right opaque reflex, so it's much more parallel. And I mean, there is no problem in having a mixed system like can actually be solved.
but okay, Camel is a good example. When you compile an interface, you don't get the same extension as when
Yeah, but
compile
Yeah.
But you can tell Make or Dune. I'm sure you can tell Dune and compiling in this interface. Assume this is an interface. View is an interface.
But why are we not?
What I'm saying
following
is-
the same?
If you're using the same file and you want to prevent the race on the file, you will decrease the amount of parallelism available.
And the Camel doesn't do that.
If you append on the file and there's no race,
If you only append on the file,
And it was
when
fine, so
you're,
we're gonna-
when you're adding proofs, you can append them at the end of the file.
so your main file
Data,
system is going to be
so,
clever enough to know that you have generated the beginning, so it's now safe to append to
Isn't
that file.
actually how things are done right now?
I
I
don't
thought
know.
there was a separate array for the opaque proofs.
Yes, it's divided in VO files are into segments, so
but everything goes through marshalling in the end, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a
Yes, there are
structure.
segments, but I don't think you can build the file incrementally.
Okay,
There is a feature request.
I remember
What does it
probably
mean?
just take a whole array and interpret that.
Maybe using a different system than Make, you could
Yeah.
explain this, but using Make, I just don't know you can possibly.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Can we let Arthur go on? maybe?
Well, this is very important, so really, the key point of the discussion. So, I mean, of course, this is like we have the president.
I think we
this decision
should-
happen after.
Yeah, we
Okay.
should make.
So this is one of the problems, and
it's
there are
very
also other
important.
problems,
Yeah,
so
I
maybe we
agree.
can point out the other problems. But I agree, this is a valid question. Okay, so
Sorry, but you didn't, just to say that we should come back to this, you didn't say explicitly what is the drawback of having two instances. I didn't hear the answer.
It's always like having two instances. Well, I mean, they are not fully interfaced. The problem is if you tell me like in VO it's only the proofs and in VOS it's only the interfaces, I would say okay. But then there is I see problems with the rules. Okay, I agree with you. Let's say the technical discussion. I will just say like for example the way this will work in Rune in Dune is you will have two calls to Coxie, one with generate only the interface and one with add the proofs. And actually, of course, you have to be resistant, but I think this is doable. And of course, this is Dune will think you're generating a CMI. So these are really not something like that is very easy to do. But the Dropbox, I still don't understand what the semantics, but indeed we can defer this to a more technical.
maybe this is a good proposal that you can do afterwards.
I don't know whether you have more points to.
Yeah, there's still one or two questions. Okay, so this prototype based on VOS file that I implemented a few months ago, I just tested it on my own formalization, so it's not like very largely tested. When I presented it in the last working group, there was some interest in having some mechanism like this. There was the three issues that we identified. So one is the atomic write of VOS files, at least. What the files should be automatically produced so that the dependencies know that they can start using it. This might be a problem related to Make or can be solved with Vue, I don't know, but
It's COG specific, right? We could add a lock at the COG writing level, I guess.
Jacques told me that the problem already exists with VO files at the moment, so it's not a problem specific to VOS files.
Yeah.
Typically, what you do on Unix is that you create a different file name and then you move.
This was a Unix specific solution, which I don't know if it was
That's right.
portable enough or to be used.
At least it's not COG specific. Any program that outputs files is.
That's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an orthogonal question. I just wanted to mention it.
Mm.
There is the other problem also of including modules. I don't know if something
This
has
is
been
fixed.
done. It's fixed now, so now it's no longer a problem.
But do we know if it's
But this was a problem for the VIO thing,
Yeah,
not
this is
for.
what you said.
I think
Yeah.
No, for it's, Gaetan, I think, solved all the issues.
last time we asked Gaetan if it was fixed, he said he didn't remember.
No, but then I managed to. It's we are doing it now. We compile all the standard library with VIO with Quick.
Yeah, and it fails once in a frequent one.
It's a good neutrino.
Okay, so up to some. Yeah, but it's a race problem.
Yeah,
And I
probably.
know where the race problem is coming from. It's probably coming from using VIO and VO.
No, it's not. I just think it's a race problem. I think it's another race, but not
Another
the
race.
make one.
It could be another race. All right, and then there was this question that Emilio raised: is should we get rid of the VIO support in the code base of COP to clean up the code base essentially? And then we asked, okay, so who's using VIO? And then was a mention that Carl was using VIO for his project.
When we say bit of data, maybe is how much they share in terms of implementation. Because we would expect they should share a lot.
So there was two aspects in VIO. One is producing the file with the suspended proofs, so that you just remove the part that suspend the proof. And then there's all the problem of turning the VIO file into a VO file, and that's a big chunk of file that you could get rid of completely.
But for the first feature you said, is the implementation
shared.
Yeah, I reused as much code as I can. I mean, my diff is only 50 lines, so
Okay.
It's just turning a something into none, so.
exactly, yeah. I'm just forcing the thing to move.
And changing the file
If
name.
it was anything more complicated, I could not have implemented it myself. So
Yeah.
that's to be simple.
That's small enough.
Okay, so I've been thinking since then about, well, there are two points. Is one, if we are going to get rid of VIO, when should that take place? And second is, if we want to deal with dependencies, what would be probably a good way to do it?
Mhm.
So one thing I'm suggesting, I'm going to be shut down because I propose a different kind of file again. But okay, you can maybe merge it in the same file. The point is to keep track for every top-level item of its dependencies, and it's fine to over-approximate the dependencies, either because we don't have fine-grained support for it, or because it's more efficient to.
Isn't that the role of OX files somehow?
I don't know the content of OX files, so I can't tell.
No, they're not.
Again?
Yeah, I know, but this is more or less is kind of the kind of metadata that we could attach to OX files, I guess.
I don't think
There's
that-
already
Maybe.
I don't think that should be an announce file, because if you go, we have already a large issue, mainly due to Carl, like trying to specify this file format. Okay, actually the problem is we don't know what is a good, at least on Stack, after discussion with Carl, on what is a good digest for types. Because for example, it's not clear how much you want to be a faithful digest, a faithful hashing of types, for example, to see the type has changed. Because for example, the universe constraints sometimes can modify your thing. So this is a hard technical problem. But no, I think you want like an API to return this data and then have it independent of a file format.
But it can be stored somewhere.
Yeah, but this is already, we have a specification, isn't this API repository, but it was mainly by Carl, well, we can comment more. So yes, this is okay, but not, I wouldn't tie it to a file.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me just kind of, just a quick comment on, from our perspective as a users of VIO and possibly this VUS format. So the key functionality that we want is, first of all, like this kind of compilation that just suspends all proofs. I mean, that in itself is extremely useful. But then this kind of second thing is just selectively proving, a single proof in a file independently, synchronously. And I think both of those are really important to us. So, for example, if we throw out VIO, then we could not do the latter, right?
So Guillaume had a remark about this.
Yeah, it seems to me that it is a bit too soon, about talking about fine-grained dependencies, because it feels to me that solving the question of incremental compilation is a much harder problem. And once it is solved, dependency will come naturally. I mean, in a sense, it's simpler once you have solved the issue of incremental computation to solve the issue of dependency. So it seems to me that we are talking about dependencies a bit too soon.
Also, it's related to cache invalidation.
Yeah.
So we also have similar problems to tackle.
It depends what you mean too soon. Carl has already 2 papers working on that. So, I mean, it's soon, but it's not too soon.
On the fine-grained part?
So an incremental kind of testing for Carl. So I mean, it's too soon, but not too soon. Like I mean.
So the question is like, what are the main challenges at the moment in terms of being able to compile just one lemma without having a cache of?
Require in the proof.
No. What are if you take the VIO files, you have a task and a function to execute it.
Right, but it's a big object, is a problem.
Yeah, if you don't have that, you have to rebuild the environment, the logical environment, the in database. So essentially today, we don't know how to do that quicker than re-executing the files, skipping the proofs before. Maybe you can do that. But you still have to process everything else.
But if you have a compiled version of the statements that are above in the file,
that's only a fragment of it.
Yeah,
then
because the hints and
the requires
the hint database,
everything. So you need incrementally compiled version of all this.
It's the difference between libobject and the safe environment. You are missing all the complements.
You don't know what is a type class, what is not.
What's the conjecture and what is
but that's also hard to store in the whole. I mean, in the whole you can store the summary.
Yes, and then you get gigabytes of memory. That's the point. That's the main problem.
That's what we do with VIO. I mean,
so what is Carl's take about this?
Sorry?
what is, I'm asking Carl, what is the solution? You're happy to live with big files to cache everything?
I mean, so I think we for us, we never had this problem with big files, but so I think that applies to some specific large projects. But I mean, for us, we could use like a combination of VOS and VIO easily, right? So when we do this kind of impact analysis, we see that, you know, certain files are needed just to get to these, certain files were unchanged, and we need to get to these files that were changed in some way. So then we would do like VOS compile all of those files so that we can successfully VIO compile these files at the bottom of the dependency tree in some sense. And then we do very detailed analysis of those VIO files and might do like a, you know, proofs spread out over all of those VIO files. So to us, this kind of functionality is a bit complementary.
I'm surprised that you didn't have any problems. So since basically when we store the state of the system, I find it a bit suspicious that it depends so much on the nature of the development, except if we have bugs or redundant data.
No, the size, the memory,
the scale of the project.
the memory footprint of Coq really depends on how you use the system. The standard library has a big footprint because you do modules in functors.
But don't we have a bug somewhere? This is what I'm wondering.
No, it's quadratic, so it's not a bug, it's going quadratic.
Well, that's why not solve the
The size of the VIO file.
Shouldn't be
Yes, in the number of the files, I think it's quadratic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it depends also in matcomp. I think that all the VIO files together are 3 gigs. Okay, in Fiat whatever, where JSON has 700 files, it's unbearable. But it really depends on the number of files.
It's quadratic in the chain, in the dependency depth. So if you have a,
Well, I mean, it should be size of holes times size of the contest.
I'm surprised because matcomp has a fairly large dependency chain.
the state in itself is not that big. Really, the problem is that we keep duplicating it all over the place.
Yeah.
In a like a
Right,
very
but-
redundant way.
Duplication is a
If I
issue.
remember, unless I'm mistaken,
Duplication is the reason that it explodes, not the
Then
size
the
of the
canvas
state
match,
itself.
yeah.
Like usually the size of Coq state is like at most a few megabytes, like maybe a few hundred megabytes if you want, but that's still small.
yes,
Right,
but
that
this
is-
is the size of a VIO file.
No, the size of a 100 megabytes is like big development. The size of a VIO file for big developments is in the range of several gigabytes.
Right. So just a quick comment. So for us, I think the reason why we did not come across this problem is that we basically target continuous integration not for our work, right? So this is something that should be run on a clean environment where, you know, you have quite a large disk already, and then you just throw away the results and store maybe some metadata that's very small. So that's why we never had this problem.
Maybe you don't measure it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you didn't measure it.
So,
You didn't run out
We
of
can
this
measure it for
space.
you. I mean,
Yeah,
we
that
can
would be
probably
nice.
solve
Yeah, that would be interesting.
we would be interested in numbers on the size of these files. For your
Okay, I'll tell my colleagues about that.
okay, so, but what you said just a minute ago is that you could have VOS files for so many files and then just use VIO for the
Yeah,
few.
For the ones
files
we
at the
need
end
to
of the
actually
chain
process, yeah.
on which you want to do finer grain analysis. And then you don't have a blow up.
yeah. But this mixes the two approaches. So
Yeah.
for a build system, you need to understand.
I don't think adding if using some fancy make system, then you should be manageable to have VOS compilation, like our VIO files, reading VOS files. I think that should be easy.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. I mean, this is a kind of like a custom tool that completely replaces Coq Makefile, basically.
So it seems we want to have both at the end.
I mean, if you generate dependencies between files by yourself, you can just I can just add one line in my pull request to allow with some option that the VOS file will read the VIO file, the VIO file will read the VOS file, and then that should work. Yeah. So just to finish on my notes, there was this. So what I wrote before this discussion is I was suggesting to not throw away VIO files all at once and replace them by something else, just to give at least users like some notice that things are going to be depreciated. People are going to be depreciated. Also because we don't know if the first release of VOS will like work completely well successfully the first time. So I would suggest going through this intermediate phase and then later decide if we want to clean up the VIO support, or if we want to have some unified format like Emilio is looking for.
So I added a link to the wiki, to the old proposal, which is onto separate issues.
And I just recall the interest of having a single file. So when you have VOS and VO files, the VO files have to recompile the statements that have already been compiled for the VOS. So maybe there is some work that you could factorize, but it's not obvious.
Again, I missed.
When you compile the VOS file, you compile the statements. When you compile the VO files, you compile the statement and the proofs. So you've type checked the statements twice.
The completion is by redoing from scratch.
So right, so I had some like mathematics analysis in some GitHub posts trying to explain why the overhead is just a few percent in most practical cases. Acceptable. But maybe for some project it would be worth trying to store some states. But the problem again is we have to store potentially large files.
So in the end, is it here that we want to deprecate VIO?
No, at least replace it by some mechanism that will be
That will subsume it.
That will subsume it.
Yeah.
These incremental VO files.
I think you're really very utterly optimistic about 8.11 for this kind of fine
It's
range.
just a number. It's just a number.
Yeah, right. That was, in the meantime, if we can do VIO, then we're in trouble.
But Pierre-Marie, well, just to keep in check, like I told, it's because I mean we are like we could be like a couple of weeks away of it. So I mean, Serapi can query the API. So I mean.
It's libobject, right? You have to
No,
handle
all
the horrible semantics of the object.
No, if you look at the issue I put in the wiki, the 100th on Serapi, it's much simpler. The only thing you need is a good DGS for types. Okay, so now when a type has changed, and this DGS is still like I'm thinking how to do it with metaprogramming or whatever. You only need to use a good DGS. Of course, you could also use equality, but this is not too good.
Do you inspect tags of libobject?
No, we don't inspect. No, I just test the global environment. I go to the kernel. Well, I need the kernel signature. I don't need this.
Suspect that your verb explanation is going to be mostly useless because you're going to say, oh, this is invalidated because something, and you will end up recompiling everything and having a way
sorry, Pierre-Marie, I go for a constant to see a constant. I go to the constant in the kernel using the clause that was removed, as you know, and needlessly. No, but the
I think we need a bit of context. Your dependencies between what terms and terms?
Well, you can put if you want. There is a formal specification in this. If you want to go to the browser, I can show you that Serapi. Well, it's by Cal mainly. But actually, the prototype I have is I go to the kernel. For a constant, I get the type and I hash the type.
Yeah, but what about the other metadata?
I don't care about the metadata. The only thing I care is about the type for now.
Yeah, but this is an under approximation. It's not an over approximation to me. My understanding.
What will be other metadata for constant is still has the same type?
Is it part of a hint database, for example?
Yes.
Is that not
this is for the proofs? Okay, but then of course for the proofs, maybe in this I don't think Carl you didn't handle like I think in this case if you change hints or something like that, then we will invalidate on the file.
Yeah.
This is what Pierre-Marie was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, right.
Every single Galilean file you can, I mean, every single reasonable use of coq will define some stuff in the libobject.
Yes, sorry, Pierre-Marie, but in this case, for example, this only works. For example, this system, what Carl can correct me, but if you change like implicit arguments or whatever, I think the whole thing is invalidated. Yeah, of course, but let's start with types only. I mean, but
that's what I'm saying.
No, but okay, I understand.
But you can go.
More things.
I have a bit more context. In the paper where they do mutation, they mutate definitions, so the dependency Emilio is tracking is probably good enough.
No,
but for this use case,
this has nothing to do with this paper.
Otherwise, it's useless. So I don't see how
you use that information of dependency then?
Not to recompile things. I mean,
what was the use case for this?
Yeah, which is the use case?
Oh, for example, I changed the lemma. I changed the statement of the lemma. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Carl.
Yeah, so just kind of big background. So basically, we are using this to when you submit like a commit to CI, right, and you want to avoid redoing the whole work. And it turns out that a lot of changes are extremely trivial in the version histories that we looked at for big coq projects. So then you can actually kind of safely do this. But I mean, even if it was unsafe and we are sort of using an under approximated dependency graph, I think a lot of users are still kind of find this useful because you're likely to at least come across the key sort of lemmas that were affected by this change.
Yeah.
Even though we don't have a guarantee that it was everything.
Yeah.
But of course, it would be nice to extend this work if we were able to put a bit more structure in Eve object. You could do the same kind of analysis. Did you?
Be more precise.
Do you agree? It would be interesting to extend to.
Yeah, but this is like I think it seems so kind of like to me like minor tricks like the big problems, for example, like this 100th issue. The big problem is to get in this. It's similar to what Arthur proposed. It's done in a different way because it's an OCaml API to get this data. You could print it on a file, but okay. Anyways, I think it's not so related to the proposal. So of course, it's a very interesting discussion. For example, something you don't want to have is universes, because well, with all this asynchronous thing, then you are too weak. So this is not sound. Okay, because even modular universes, something to be practical. I'm still doing experiments informally in my computer with better samples. But I think if you have like a universes of the terms too, then this is too weak with the VIO. Okay, it's an example. So you need to algorithm sound. So in the end, you have to do a full check.
But universes are one thing, but breaking the behavior of auto or Yoto.
No, but this I think is only, of course, you only consider if a statement has changed. You have to fields have a the object you support. Of course, if the object you don't support, you maybe have to invalidate the whole file.
Then I lost the link with VIO and US.
Okay, so
Because I thought it was about the
coming back to plan B, so if plan I is not realistic to depreciate VIO, my plan B that's not written here is to just integrate the VOS support, the 50 lines patch, and just do nothing else, and just let VIO live for whoever wants to use it until we find some unified, better system.
But it seems anyway that from what you said with Carl that a combined usage would be useful of dependencies using VOS and more fine-grained synchronous proof
Yes,
with
because
VIO.
generating a VOS is faster than a VIO anyway. You don't pay the time of writing to disk, but also you don't even store what you write. Right? I guess it goes a bit faster. And then for the file, you need to recheck selectively. You do the VIO, you trigger proof 37. And this is orthogonal to the dependencies, I think. No?
And another comment I wanted to say about the dependencies is, in my opinion, if we want the dependencies to be useful in that you can do some change and not recompile everything else because you added an int in some base, we need like finer grain control
of the dependencies
of scopes. But people are only willing to invest into being more careful with their scopes when they do proofs
if it benefits them
from it. And the benefit they will see when we have some support. So there is kind of a bootstrapping problem.
And if the system gives you a way to control the scope.
But then I think the point, for example, of our like if you want on this is that really most of the time, like let's say I don't know, I'm gonna make the number 90% of the time you just modify a proof. So then you click the button and you only recheck this proof. Okay. The other 9% of the time you modify the statement or something. So usually, if you have dependency on types, you only need to to recompile the proof dependent on this statement, on the definitions, of course. And then 1% of the time, if you change hints, you change the notations, of course, would depend.
One thing which happens very often is you change a proof that is in a section.
This is sections, of course. This is a help.
I only
And also, you can add notation, and you don't know if adding a notation is not going to break everything.
Yeah, it's an effect.
No, if you add a notation, you have to validate it. Well, this would cover
But what you're saying is that in most cases it will be useful.
Even changing the statement of a lemma might trigger some ripple effect from the hints or something, because you get a hint that has a different effect. So non-trivial consequences, not only on terms.
But Pierre-Marie, keep in mind that something we have to be realistic. The state of this incremental technology is really like a helper. It's nothing giving you.
What we are trying to see.
I have foundational issues with this solutions that are neither sound nor complete. So,
No, but I think we should.
But it's not a foundational
we should see
thing.
the other
It's practical.
way, in my opinion. So these kind of works are an opportunity for us to see what cleanups we should do in the language and the system to to help it be sound.
Clearly. I
Because
agree with that.
otherwise it's just impossible.
Okay, Martin, but in the issues reply, like proofs, fake proofs have many side effects. So this is what you have to start.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, and it's very difficult. We can discuss later. Well, anyways, just I'd like to make two very brief comments after.
Opaque proofs are hard.
I'd like to make two very brief comments. Are you finished with the plan?
Yeah, I have to leave in 5 minutes. So
Okay, so
after
I
comments,
will very quick. I think I'm fine with most of the plans personally. Okay, I think like actually, I have a bit of a different vision of incremental compilation, but I think it doesn't interfere. So as Arthur has to leave, I won't give the details. We can do this working group and with Callan. There is I addressed these two issues I put so if people is curious, so you can see what we are mainly Calwell brainstorming. And only thing I have before merging for me is we should be careful it doesn't interact with other PRs we have. Okay, so have a bit of check because we have some PRs like this proof global state. So very easy thing just to check. I can check with Maxime maybe that there is not going to be some bad thing in the order of PRs, and then for me, both plans are okay for me.
Yeah.
I would advise to separate the future of this PR, which I hope should be integration, and the future of the VIO.
Yeah, for now. Yeah.
Separate the two. I don't think we need to deprecate VIO fast to have.
my plan B, if there's any use for VIO,
Yeah, but even if there, then we can think about it almost independent.
And experimenting with both.
I never had any ambition about removing things in the code base. It's just was
Basically, if you can make it work, like reading VOS and doing VIO.
So then the question is, if we need to add an explicit file, compilation flag for requesting to read VOS files when you're compiling a VIO, and that would be an explicit flag because otherwise you don't know. Or we can change the policy of VIO files compilation to say if you compile a VIO, you look either for VO or a VIO or a VOS. That will work. Taking whichever is most recent.
Any preference?
I think that would be the clean way to do it because adding an extra flag is just for this seems.
Yeah.
Many flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us, an extra flag will work.
But would it work if we have the policy of generalizing the current policy of VIO, which is to load the most recent of VO and VIO? And if we extend that to load the most recent of VO, VIO, or VOS?
Yeah, but that will work for us. Yeah, sure.
I think we should try that first, and if it fails, then it can flag. Okay.
Yeah.
So if people are okay with the PR, I will try to. I think I'm going to try to do the PR. So I will try to review it and help.
It's hard to manage because we
I will make this one change and then you can.
Yeah. But if there is any objection or none, you should start to think about speaking now. Right?
Yeah,
I'm good with it. Happy to try it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I propose we have a look maybe later today. We have a look and maybe we tell Arthur when is the right moment to rebase. Okay, so you don't rebase and we just merge another PR destroying your.
Oh yeah, you need to help me because
Is
I don't know
everything
how to
rebase?
rebase.
Okay, but this is.
But we can help you.
Maybe we can like set a rebasing point.
I think we should first. I need to.
First finish.
I know roughly what point it touches, but I don't know the proof level one. So we synchronize.
Yeah,
you
so
and me.
we tell Arthur, okay,
correct.
Arthur, but this should happen soon. We tell you after this PR will be the good moment. You won't get conflicts
And
anymore.
we can help with the rebase.
And then in that sense, we'll be ready for final review. And I don't know if nobody. Well, I know Enrico, Mathieu, Guillaume.
No objection.
You're okay with Marine?
Yeah.
I only have one question, which is not about the merging problem. Is it the case that the problem you ask is related to make the fact that when think about using Dune is going to change something?
No. If anything, I'm not sure about the make rules, really, but I'm not worried because I will have to have two incremental compilation, and this is going to have. So it's okay. I mean, maybe
change some details.
Yeah.
I think it shouldn't be
Not
like.
drastically.
Given the problem we have now is with the load path and this stuff, we thought it's solved. We just didn't have time to release the new version, but I don't expect any problem there. It's something rules are very easy to write. It's very convenient. So.
Okay.
So I have another meeting, so I'm going to leave now. But thank you for.
Thank you. Arthur.
See you later. Watch here.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
This evening for those ones.
Let me add.
Yeah.
See you tonight then.
Yeah, see you later.
Okay, so sorry, Claudia, we were rushing a bit because Arthur had to leave. So maybe you want to talk a bit.
So I would be just interesting if you could share some data. For example, the size of these VIO, given that you're testing many libraries, would be very helpful to us.
Yeah, so we didn't actually record that, but I think I can ask my colleagues. It probably shouldn't be too much work. I think we're going to revisit this anyway. So again, the problem for us is that we're sort of stuck in 8.5 right now on this tool chain.
What? 8.5? Why?
Why?
So because when we were doing this work, we sort of picked these revision histories of large projects, and they were, they only work on 8.5. So it's like a question like, for 25 revisions of project X, do we go back and port that to 8.7 and 8.8 as well?
I see. Yeah, it's a bit of a waste of time. Yeah.
But is there a chance to reuse part of this infrastructure to get less data, just like say the size, time, and things like that, on more recent versions that could run on a more recent version of code as well?
Yeah. I mean, the main thing is I think, for example, we have these several other modes other than this fine-grained selection stuff, right? So we also tested like, if you only use VIO and prove every proof in each file, how much better is that than this fine-grained selection? And of course, obviously, those work right now for like 8.8 and 8.9 and so on. So we could, for example, rerun those modes, but the question is like, so then we have to look at which projects are we going to run, because these version histories don't work for 8.8, right? So obviously we do have projects that do work, but then we have to select the revision series, right, and so on. But obviously we're open to doing that. But that's going to be a little bit more heavy than kind of just rerunning the same experiments and doing new measurements.
Which project do you use as test?
So for the first, so we had two papers, right? So there was first where we only did this fine-grained selection and sort of compare that to the compiling all files. And there we had Verdi Raft, and we had Flock, and a hat. Just check really briefly. So we had like 5 or 6.
And Unimath as well?
Verdi, Unimath, and Flock.
Yeah, exactly. Those were the big ones where we only did like fine-grained selection. So then for the second paper where we did all these like different modes, where we also do this kind of more safe style VO compilation and so on. So then we also used Verdi Raft and Flock, but we added a bunch more. So let me just bring the paper up here.
That's all. Okay. Zach got his graphs of commits and stuff like that about Verdi Raft.
Right. Yeah. So we did the Fin map by Cyril Cohen, and so this was kind of a project under happy development. So that's why we found it interesting.
Yeah.
And then we did, there was another project called Surface Effects that did some kind of formalization of functional programming languages. F omega C. Yeah. So that was kind of it.
So you need
Pokelicot as well. Yeah, that's a big one.
So you need to test it. You need a large active project. I mean, to get
that's
in 8.8.
So our mode of operation, right? So this is how we usually evaluate these regression test selection techniques, right? To pick this huge Java project. So now you say, we picked 50 revisions, right? And see like how well does this technique perform. So that's usually how we do things. And it's kind of, for Cocktail it's kind of limited because there actually needs to be kind of a lot of knowledge to just set this up, because everybody uses a different way to build their project. So I think this would have been much easier if everybody, for example, had used Dune. Probably this would have been almost automatable for a bunch of Coq projects. But now we have to do a lot of manual modifications. So, for example, there were some revisions that didn't even compile.
Of course. Okay. But we don't have.
So the highlight would be that. So for this fine-grained checking, we got the speed up of, or like the selection at the proof level, we got the speed up of about 10x compared to, I mean, if you start from scratch, right? So everybody right now in continuous integration starts from scratch. on a clean slate, and they compile everything using VO files. So then if you do selection, we got in average about up to 10x. I mean, I think for realistic projects, you get something like 2x or 3x speed. So I mean, this can be a lot depending on your project, right? I mean, if your project only takes like 40 seconds, this is probably not worth it, right? So then we also looked at this parallelization. So the first paper was only about like sequential but plus selection. So then we also studied like parallelization and selection at the same time, and using these different like VO files, VIO files, and so on. And then you could get a speed up of almost like 30x compared to this really stupid sequential mode, right? But realistically, like 4 or 5x in CI or something like that, if you're using parallelization and so on. So we have these graphs if people are interested, like the effect of parallelism by itself and the effect of like selection by itself and so on.
Cool.
So again, obviously this is the 8.5 toolchain. So I mean, hopefully we can redo these experiments. If official support is added for like, and this VUS obviously would be like another node. If you
compile differences. But do we have any examples of projects that were very active using 8.8 or no 8.9? That compile with 8.8?
The problem is now the versions.
Can you do that?
The version spans are so short, we don't have that many revisions.
Yeah, so we're sort of keeping the lookout on this. There are people who actually do a very short spurt of development, right? So I mean, I personally have a bunch of these projects that were sort of developed during a very short time span, and then you can get kind of good data for this.
I think, for example, Concert has been working from 8.6 to now.
And it's moving quite fast.
VST almost 2, yeah.
Yeah, and VST as well.
Well, but if you take all these years, and instead like 2 years of commits, so it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's compatible with 8.9. For many commits back, there are some projects, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So one kind of hurdle we had to go through was this annotation of these proof using, right? That's sort of Emilio talked about, right? So we actually had some scripting. We set up like scripting to add to every existing revision, and that's actually a big part of the engineering of the project. To sort of process each and every revision so that it has these proof using annotations and so on.
Is this tool robust? I mean, reliable?
Not super reliable. I mean, we used it for example, like VerdiRaft now has this. So we made like a PR for VerdiRaft, so now it has all these proof using annotations. But I mean, it's not super robust now. So.
No, because I mean, it would be nice to have it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of ad hoc parsing involved, sadly.
Yeah.
I guess.
And do you read the data from the OGS file or from suggest proof using outputs?
Yeah. So for this, we only use the OGS files for this kind of offline processing, right? So that's how we did it.
Okay.
Cool.
So the OGS files are produced by.
It's like the glob file. So when you compile a glob file, you can have the STM split in the file which section variables are used by which lemma.
Right.
So it's related to the STM.
Yes. Well, anyway, it's, yeah.
So one thing I can also mention that would be interesting for us is that, so I mean, of course, we sort of used always the COC C as much as we could, like we do the scheduled VIO checking and so on. There's an option for that. But I think for, what we could do and what would probably improve things a lot is if you could sort of give your own scheduling data for proofs, right? So it's like, I want to prove, 500 proofs. And I know approximately how long time they took before. So now I want to sort of see the scheduler with data, even though I don't have an aux file, right? Because this is in CI and so on.
Yeah, I see.
So that's something we're interested in.
So instead of reading it from the aux file, pass it on a command line. This is what
Do you want to pass a time or do you want to pass a scheduling decision?
No, it's an order. It's the same thing. I mean, if you know how long it takes, the scheduling the STM does is just pick the biggest first, right? So it's an order.
Okay.
I mean, it could be, right? So I mean, there are kind of different levels. So most simply, it could be just an order, right? But I mean, in the limits, you could say, oh, we actually want to give like a complete scheduler which takes all these decisions. Because we know a lot of things, like we want to distribute proof checking or something. So like pick only these proofs and schedule only these proofs or something. I don't know. But yeah, just having this kind of order would be nice.
Cool. Anything else?
So I think like the way I'm gonna do, what we are gonna do hashes is using a PPX for hashing kernel terms. So if somebody is interested in that, we'll do that on TogetDGS because there is not a good way, you need a bit of control. So I'm gonna take some PPX and adapt it to make DGS of data structures with some tweaking.
Why you need a hash specifically?
Well, some kind of DGS, so you have to check, okay, you could use equality, but it's much better to say, okay, so this depends on this and the dependency record is on these hashes. And now something has changed, you need to,
to compare shorter things.
Yeah, this is how it works usually, Usually you start, like, for example, Dune is very interesting that this confuses people. In Dune, if you touch a file or you edit a comment or something, it won't recompile.
Yeah, sure.
Because Dune is using the hash of the object file to check that of the TMO or TMX. And then people that then sometimes say, oh, Dune is not working, and no, at first I was confused too. So yeah, I think I would like to use...
it compiles the files anyway,
but if you obtain the same,
no dependency change.
The same object file.
But you can have errors in comments in the comments.
No, but
sure, then you will get no hash. You will get no.
It has to compile.
No, the dependency. You compile the dependency, but if the output is the same,
it's not been updated.
You don't recompile what follows.
Okay. Just
yeah, of course, it doesn't compile. Invalidates the whole chain.
Sorry.
Different.
Yeah, no, but this. Yeah, and hasn't. In fact, they have some problems in Dune with the cache. It's a longer story. They have some problems. This is actually sometimes tricky to do efficiently. It's a long story. But I think like the only thing missing is this is still you cannot go to Serapi and get all the hashes of this because I don't have the hash function. And just only for I'm using the kernel environment. So for object, you give me an iterator over the object and a hash.
So your hashing infrastructure is ready, it's just missing the hash function?
Yes. Because actually, just for example, you have to ignore universes. Well, we should use it. There will be also some.
Oh, we did that. We did implement a hash function for caching.
But yeah, we could do by hand, of course, with using the hash of the
with
kernel.
Vadim for type classes.
Yeah, but I want something more tunable. Yeah.
Which ignores universes and universe.
We could do by hand, but
But the problem is that defining this hash function is in fact hiding a kind of dependency analysis. What you take into account and what you don't.
Yeah, what you take into the hash. The thing essentially will be with the experiment. Essentially, for example, if you do like a true injective hash, or well, of course it doesn't injective, but let's say like supposed to be injective, postulated to be computational injective, then you will get a lot of invalidation due to these universes. So this is stuff. So but maybe this is once we have the hash, we can compare. Okay. For example, we can compare ignoring which parts of the kernel level terms at this moment is what kind of course maybe unsolved. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what I will be working with the not today.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. So I guess the meeting is finished, or
Feel free, Carl. Feel free to thank you, and feel free to take a slot in the next working group or yourself.
Okay,
You're welcome.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a nice day. Ciao.
Ciao.
C'était la fin du...
Non, on a
Last one.
la dernière que j'espère que sera bref. C'est pour M. Edbelin pour DTK. Moi, j'ai tiré le mot, I can do it too.
You could tell me what you
For
I was not scheduled for it, but I can talk about LabelQ2.
Okay, well, let me do then the introduction if you want.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so as we were discussing in lunch, GTK2 has been removed from Debian. So for example, Debian will ship Coq 8.9, but not Coq AD, which is good news because at least for proof and error people, And yeah,
You mean that they are shipping Cockade 9, this part?
well, then we will have to ship very quickly 8.91. But thanks to Hugo. Hugo was the main driver. He did a lot of work. He can tell you more. No, I think it's for us the moment to consider the migration to GTK3 for Cockade. And I was thinking about the strategies, and I become convinced like maybe the Hugo has to say. We also migrated, we did some work on GTK3 itself, particularly I modified the build system to be easier for some stuff and integrate a bit better with Coq. So for example, you can hack on both things at the same time and have a toolset environment, and allows you, we could even distribute, I guess. So allows, at least to me, more flexibility. So I think what I propose really is to kill the GTK2 version, well, kill is not to really remove and really merge Hugo patch, he needs to do some revisiting. And because at some point it will be possible also we keep two versions in the tree. We have the technology to do a good setup where we keep both the GTK2 and the GTK3, but given that has been removed, I think we should embrace the GTK3 effort and we have still time for 8.10.
Did you try it on other platforms than Linux?
No,
and
but given
What about 2 and 3 on other platforms?
OS X, no?
Yes, I'm working on OS 6.
Linux works, okay. And Windows-based, as I rewrote that GTK build system, I think that should work on Windows, but of course, we'll know in 1 week anyways, because I think I will get some bit time. There is a discussion on the GTK rep if you're interested. So I think I need to talk to the Camel people because I am confused. What is the right way? What they recommend us to get GTK in Windows? Because there are like several installation paths. So I don't want to do many. I want to have in the CI. So we have CI for GTK3. And I want to add the CI, the Azure version, but I want to talk with the Camel people. So I will post maybe today or tomorrow about this, and I will say, I have this problem. What do Windows Explorer and the Camel recommend me? But I don't expect any problem, of course. So maybe we'll say we will know soon. And the Windows on Mac is working, and I don't know. So maybe you want to explain the status. What do you think?
So I don't know what everyone read. So this is, there are 3 features which are removed. The most important one is the bar, progressing bar. Maybe it's not difficult to do. I didn't try. It uses Pixmap, and we need to use Kero for Pixmap. So I don't know, Pierre-Marie, if you feel
importing that.
Importing that, or Claudio made it for Matita to use Kero. It seems to work easily. Just sometimes to look at the documentation.
I can try.
Cairo is Victoria, right?
Yeah.
So it's not Pixmap.
It
should be easier.
Yeah,
It should be a lot easier.
You shouldn't do the approximation, the discretization by yourself. It should be the tool.
And it would make it possible to close a bug, which is that there are too many lines in the file. You no longer see lines with error because they are overwritten by line with error.
So run on the pixels.
Yeah, there is a. Yeah, when the vertical bar for an error is too tiny,
you can touch it.
Yeah, that's like it.
Okay.
What more?
So there were the question of whether we keep support for label GTK2 at the same time as for label GTK3. I don't know if it's really useful, but we can do that if needed.
I would say it's actually the Coq ID doesn't depend on Coq. So depends only on the protocol. So the server could be shared by the two implementations, and the protocol is expected to remain stable, I think.
So you mean we could consider putting Coq ID in another repository with 2 branches, one for GTK2 and one for GTK3? That's the kind of thing.
Or 2 directories, I mean. Yes.
Or 2 directories.
The point is, I mean, you can, if you maintain the top ID, which is called either top should work for both versions. The protocol is the same. And the linking, this doesn't, well, I think it has a small dependency, let me see.
but I mean, we have many things to do, so I don't get the point of having the old version.
I think the old version is totally removed from distribution, so I will just.
Yeah, you should just forget about it for.
But this is gonna still working. I mean, We can put in a separate repo on another directory, it will still work, as long as we don't change the protocol.
What's the motivation for keeping it?
I don't know if it's really needed, because everywhere where there is GTK2, there will be
GTK space in alpha.
GTK3 also.
No, we are at GTK4.
They left,
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
How long
They
does it
cannot
take?
have events. Okay, they're working there in alpha, so.
That's the reason.
Okay, so in fact, the CookieDB depends on the Coq for the protocol. Yeah, there is a small dependency of the core protocol on Cookleaf. Depends in very little things on Cookleaf, like some of these functions and some stuff like this.
On the lib folder?
Yeah, it depends only in the library folder.
Not the
So-
cookie file.
No, Coq.lib, the library, the common library Coq.lib, which is the lib folder. Maybe some arrays, some hashes, something like that. Yeah. Some extra array function, so it's very like a dependency on Coq. So. Yes, I don't know.
So then I think there's decision to make on the who is, I mean, I know how to do it with the archive as it is. If we make a different archive, it's some work that someone has to do. Has to do.
To make it work with both versions, you mean? Oh.
Yes, or to, I mean, currently it's in master, so it works with master, it will work with 8.10.
Hello. I can take care of merging you with you replace the PR. I can take care of merging and setting up the rest of the infrastructure. As I did the mix system for GTK3, I think I should be able to.
But for instance, sorry,
Go ahead.
One thing that it would make sense in a way to separate to put CookID or to separate the development of CookID in some way from the development of Coq. Because then you could do a new release of CookID that would be compatible with both 8.9 and 8.10, and that would support GTK3, for instance.
You can do that already.
You can, of course, but it's harder to test, for instance, if you keep it tight with the sources
Actually, it's very easy to do because actually Coq, unfortunately, because of the V files, is not integrated with the full new release setup, but the Coq ID, yes. So no, you can do that now.
No, but what I mean is that if you have the sources of CookID in Coq master,
you have to
and
backport
you want to
to
depend on not Coq 8.10 but Coq 8.9. This doesn't make much sense.
Okay.
What I was saying is that you would like to have a CookID that works with GTK3 and both Coq 8.9.
Yeah, I can do that in master.
You can, but
you can, because actually with P you select, so you can select against. You can build against the Coq master, against Coq 8.9, and we build against the two.
It's just weird and confusing. I mean, putting everything is in the same repository makes a lot of sense when everything is supposed to track the same version.
Yeah.
When you depend on various versions and a range of versions, then it makes sense to be in
I understand too, but then, for example, we didn't do because 8.9 has been released. I understand what you mean. We could add a CH job, take 1 minute to add a CH job that actually takes CookID against 8.9 in master.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
Because actually this is what the P parameter doesn't do. Actually allows you to ignore the local packages and test against release ones. So yeah, this workflow is explicitly supported.
Sure. Well,
and you should probably test
if you
we want
prefer it
this
like this.
And then of course then with this you tag the version and you tag.
Yeah, but then you tag. Yeah, that's another problem. Then you tag, and the tag is for everything, but you mean it only for CookID. I'm not criticizing the interest of mono repositories here. I'm saying this doesn't work in every as well in every situation.
No, but this doesn't work about. The only thing you need to do a branch. But okay for this.
No, a tag is global to the repository. You will add
okay,
one more tag.
I understand, but anyways, I think like we can do way more than we do. So
yeah,
of course it's
sure.
not perfect. There are many small problems, but I think it's just a matter of going to do it. I mean, we can do a lot. We could release a CookID separately, so we can start with that if you want. I think I'm against moving out of the repo.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if this is
You
what
have
you mean, yeah.
radically changed your
Yes,
opinion
because I am,
from-
as far as I know, I'm the only one who actually split it enough to its own repository.
Yeah, I know.
And I make it build with Campbell, and after thinking about that, I think I'm against, yeah. I don't see the advantage.
Well, I'm
The
telling
problem is
you.
more convenient to have them together.
Well,
Together.
one advantage would be that a tag in the repository means the tag for CockID or Cock.
I can work around the tags very easily. There is support for that. There is even a feature request. My only problem, of course, before I had the problem.
You mean
with
you
the
don't need
system.
tags?
No, I can have like a separate domain for tags. So if the tag is called whatever, I mean, and then the person is
Separate as a
depending on the
prefix
traffic for the package.
Okay.
So
Then
this
you
is people using that. So this is minor problems. Of course, in the past, I've had the problem, of course, that in the single repository was considered as one package, but not that is supported
Yes.
native for many
Yeah,
packages.
I know.
This is what I changed.
Jane makes working with other repositories very easy.
Very
I know.
So, and against it doesn't mean I wouldn't be, if you want to split and also support that.
Hmm.
Personally, and against it. If you want to split, okay, I will also, I will oppose that.
Hmm.
I mean, like, if you give me choice, I keep like that. No, but basically because, yeah, okay.
So we don't-
Another argument against the split is that today, if you want to test the STM, the only thing I do is to use CockID.
Yeah.
No, but you
There's
use the
fake
server. And CockID, yes, okay.
There's
yeah,
fake
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yes.
and the CockID.
Very
too.
interactive.
Sometimes have to be manual. No, sometimes are manual, yeah.
Okay.
So, okay,
So maintenance of the GTK2 version does not seem very.
so what we do, we just.
But
update
sorry,
merge
sorry,
to one.
I'm sorry.
And both of you don't seem to be
In fact, you
interested in
with
doing
June,
that.
you can have the two repositories split and still have the CockID repository inside your in your file in your file system in the subdirectory of your
Yeah.
Cock repository and compile everything at once.
I know.
So I don't think this changes much, except if you need to fix CockID because you have changed the STM.
No.
The problem, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I use Git submodules all the time,
Hmm.
but
No, but
Seems that
listen,
people
I'm
are
not talking
left-
about submodules here. I'm talking about an ignore repository in which you have cloned the CockID repository.
This is, for example, what I do to, for example, now I have to fix like temple
so
units.
you pretend that every commit in this repo is compatible with every commit in the other repo.
Not every, but the head of where you are and the head of where the other repo is.
No, but
Given that
Enrico,
they don't move in sync.
No,
Well, okay, if you need to make them move in sync, then this becomes a problem. I agree.
Enrico,
But I'm not sure about that.
what that means is, for example, with Cockide, I do this. I'm with Cockide in Cock, and then I do a symbolic link to GTK3, which is tunerize.
Mm.
Then my whole compilation, so for example, if I change something in GTK3, Cockides will compile automatically.
Mm.
And Merlin works, so it's seen as a single repository.
Mm.
And I just do a symbolic link, I don't care. Then I can do two separate commits. Or when I'm working with Cock equations, I need to fix the equation, I have a symbolic link to my equations with a proper branch, and then I have,
Yeah, this I understand how it works, but then I don't understand the arguments against splitting.
for me, because I don't see no game, but if you want, I still will oppose. Up to you guys.
I mean, either it's more complicated or not. If it's not,
For me, it's more convenient to have a single repository, so we have the same backtracker.
Having the same tracker, I'm not sure it's a good idea given what we said yesterday about having all these issues, and GitHub has recently added support for transferring issues, so we could have Cock/CockID and transfer all the relevant issues there.
I'm going to propose, because this is the third time we discuss a splitting. There is already, as far as I remember, 2 working group sessions on a splitting. So I propose we have a full one. So as it's time to wrap up, because we say 15 minutes. So it's very interesting. I'm not going to do the split, but if you want, I want to pose. I help you if I can help. So let's see the decision. So we should take a decision, in my opinion, because Hugo maintenance is not very expensive. So what I propose, if Hugo agrees, is to merge Hugo GTK3 patch.
And
I
forget
can take care
GTK2.
of the testing and the installation, which is a bit like of updating the thing, the dependencies and this stuff. And also I'm in coordination with Garrick, with Jack on the thing. So I propose we pass the master to GTK3. And of course, Cairo should be a feedback, so that I think we should have time to fix them.
Is GTK3 already released?
It's in a PAM,
open?
it's in a PAM, but it's a bit
It's in a PAM.
experimental. There is a risk,
Okay.
Marie, there is a risk to Yeah, but the thing is, I think users like in Debian, they won't have GTK2, so yeah, I mean, they won't be able to install CockID at all.
Yeah.
At least if we get a GTK3 version, and maybe we should release one for 8.9 too. So there is a risk. Of course. There is a risk like 8.10 we find too buggy, but I think it's the right moment not to merge. And then if we find too buggy, we have to revert to GTK2. Okay. So
Like
maybe
more buggy than something that we cannot install.
we can install in some platforms.
Yeah,
It depends on the
Depends on
platform.
the platform.
But it's not been, so if it was removed from Debian, it's because it's not been developed, maintained for how long?
To be precise, what is removed from Debian is not GTK2. It's GTK source view 2.
Ah,
GTK2 is still in Debian.
okay,
Except that CockID is using source view.
okay.
If you
It is in Debian for one of these more region maybe?
Yeah, they want to remove it.
They want to remove it too, yeah. Maybe for
Yeah,
one of
but-
these more, okay.
We don't know when that will happen.
It will happen probably eventually, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question, it's because
Just because of
no
social.
one wants to maintain GTK source view 2 anymore.
If you're afraid of this, I propose another solution, which is to keep a copy of GTK2 frozen and still build and test it. And,
By the way, the
Of the CockID for the-
yeah, so have two copies temporarily until we are sure.
Label GTK3 has the bindings for GTK source view
Three.
3 or 4?
Three.
Because they're
Both.
both.
Yes.
Which one
The,
we
the
pick?
numbering is not
Three.
synchronous.
Oh,
GTK source view
let me see.
has a version 3 and 4, which are both for GTK3.
Okay, and
We're using 4 or 3?
or 3 or
It's 3.
is there any difference? I mean,
It must be. The change
I mean,
numbers.
the minimal change.
because it seems that if we target 4 directly, it will survive longer.
Yes, that's something we can do also. I really made the minimal changes, but we can work to make it stay longer by using the last feature of
Yeah.
Are there
Absolutely.
big functionalities that have been lost in the process of going to GTK3?
No, the main one is progress bar,
And the tooltips is good? Yeah.
tooltips.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The progress bar has been lost?
Yes, I mean, it should be redone. It's not probably not a lot of work, but just
Need to
we need to know how to do it.
It's a different program that needs to be written,
Yeah.
the API on which.
Yes. The drawing interface has changed.
But given that it's completely broken
Yeah,
and it has to be
similar,
redone,
similar, but,
maybe we should redo it right. Huh?
Oh, no, Pierre-Marie.
Can I?
It should be vertical and aligned with the scroll bar, not horizontal and not aligned with the scroll bar.
What does align with the scroll bar mean?
Proportional to the file, not to the part that.
But
So
it
the file that
doesn't
is
even
checked.
expose
Yeah.
the file sometimes.
Sorry.
Because when you have execution mixed with parsing,
No, but the CockID knows how big the file is.
Yeah.
but that's not what.
It opened it. Yeah.
I mean, you could split the space looking at the number of lines in the file rather than the number of Coq sentences, or rather than the number of Coq sentences processed. Today, it's the number of sentences processed.
I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that when parsing requires to execute, this bar gets larger slowly. I mean,
I don't know. You
overall-
just see it. You just see
Yeah, because the
it
process
takes
is
more
in-
time, so you have the time to notice that it's not increasing, but it's increasing all the time.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes, no, sorry, I interpreted the other way. I think we are.
So when we finish the parsing, says the separation, it will quickly fill in, but also make it vertical, please. Okay, I know you don't care, but the file is developed this way, the bar is
No,
developed that way.
And top down, top down.
You still want to have a global
I
view?
guess so,
don't understand what
otherwise
you
it
mean.
will be already in CockID.
Yes, but the bar should be on the left side or right side of your screen, not at the
Yeah,
bottom.
right, but it cannot be synchronized with a scroll bar. That's that.
No, of course not. It's a different.
No, I mean, certain, I don't know if you can do
Perspective.
this in GTK3, but more decent IDEs put the colors inside the scroll bar. so that they are really proportional to the size of the file.
Usually you hover atop of the bar and you will see something appear on the left, but
Yeah.
that's easier than the.
Okay, that's even a refinement, but this is what I was saying.
The thing is that, well, we've got GTK 2, or even with the legacy bindings of GTK 3, we're slightly stuck with what we can do. The bar was a hack I did by hand by writing.
There are many levels of refinement. Being vertical, I think we could have done it vertical from the very beginning. Then,
But you should go, but top down. Okay.
Why do you say that?
I think one reason is that you have more space horizontally than vertically in laptops, because the screens are getting, I don't know,
Cinema-like.
going back to monoline screens.
So let's try to conclude, guys.
Look at mine.
So, Ugo, are you okay then with the plan of merging GTK
And dropping GTK 2?
Yeah, so I mean, what you pass it to, yeah. Are you okay? Okay. And okay, 2 can be designated.
Yeah.
So for the bug you mentioned in the phone description, I think it's a bug introduced in the last version.
Yeah, because it's still a bit alpha. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, that's okay. But hopefully, yeah. So should be easy to fix. I didn't fix myself to wait for all the comments. So okay, so expect some for Cockida users. Expect some fun in the next month until until things are sorted out.
Does GTK source view 3/4 have code folding finally or not?
What?
Code folding.
It actually has it already in GTK 2. GTK Source 2.
Yeah, it was already there.
But yeah, it's very hard to make it work with the other features of the editor actually. Like
The other features of what?
The other features?
Folding code.
Of the editor.
Yeah.
What if you can?
What?
Why?
Like search and replace, whether it should replace.
search and replace is done by hand, and this is a sacrilege. It should have been. I mean, we don't have access to all the features of. I mean, first, GTK Source View is a bit of crap. I don't know for version 3, but version 2. Well, I mean the most recent.
The foreign interface that is given to by OCaml. You're complaining also about the foreign interface of OCaml.
Both the features of the editor are crappy. Like GTK Source View is the thing that is used by gedit, and gedit is like compared to any reasonable, like it's not bad on Windows. You do have a bit of coloring and whatnot, but this is ridiculous compared to what you would expect from a reasonable IDE. You have to re-implement everything by hand essentially. So not very nice. And furthermore, to add insult to injury, we have the problem that not everything is fine.
It's buried by Babel.
Keep talking.
Yeah. Keep talking.
Okay. So yes, and to add insult to injury, the API itself is not reflecting the full power of the power. I mean, even if you look at the C code, you see. But it's even worse than that.
Yeah, but something that's simpler is that you use the new developer setup. Actually, it's very easy to actually work together in CookID and GTK3. In fact, my reason was I ported this to you was to help Erlang, but Google, but
I know what you're saying because they're talking just next to like.
So I'll try. Yeah, it's just a brief comment. We can assure them here, but
No, that's weird. I cannot hear more.
yeah. I just want
to.
the remark is accurate, but I just want to say like, well, I can do a demo on the working group. Actually, with the new build system in both the GTK and COC, it's very easy to work at the same time together in both projects. And it's very quickly turn around, so you can go to GTK and modify source view and this stuff. And actually, it's fairly straightforward. So this is a good opportunity. Sometimes if you're not happy, you can just go to the sources of last GTK and fix it. So it works very well, I think. In fact, this is what I got involved was to help the porting, but Google was done before I finished the.
Yeah, but the main problem is that we still don't have a real binding of GTK3 in OCaml.
Well, it's not too bad what you have. I mean, it's that you can do. You can do quite a lot. I mean, you can do a lot of things. Many times, if this is not working, you just press Wagner Lingo, and you know, it's at least you don't have to go and type make 10 times install. You know, so it's at least I'm comfortable with that.
No.
Okay, folks. So. Comment on appelle
September,
le préférence?
September, you know where to go?
Yeah.
Mathieu parle. Ah, non, Mathieu.
Moi, je
Juste
parle.
que tu peux voir si, avant que tu parles, tu peux essayer avec ton carte dans les premières.
Ok, non, mais je vais mettre.
Oui.
C'est fonction, sinon j'ai trouvé une autre place. Ça va être.
Je vais mettre
Sinon, il va rien écouter. Ok, Box.
Oui,
We are done.
Ouais, non, mais du coup, c'est peut-être un problème ouvert.
Ouais, ouais.
Tu peux peut-être couper ton YouTube.
Donc, là,
Yes,
Thank
I
you
can.
to the organizer.
Ah, c'est ça.